All right, so it's been a minute. I think it's been since maybe October since I've done a video about blue. A lot going on. Well, a lot at work. Work has kept me a little too busy to spend some time on some video. So I did a lot of work since October. Put a few posts up on the website for people following that. But anyway, yeah, I was too busy to do content, so I kept going on the project. Originally with the goal of having blue completely done and ready to take to the BMW rally in Vermont last month. And towards the end of that timeline, it was looking pretty good. Have about a week or two to spare. Got to the point where the whole bike was put together. I started it the first time, got through some small electrical bugs, normal first start kind of headache, but nothing major. And then after I let it warm up a good bit to do some preliminary carb tuning, I got the carbs working great, by the way. Would start right up, and great idle, nice and smooth. So everything was great. And then I noticed that one of my drip pens that I keep under the motorcycle while it's on the stand, instead of being dry like it should have, had a little bit of oil in the bottom. And so looking at it, it was motor oil, not gearbox oil. So I wound up doing a quick teardown. I got the driveline, or got the transmission and the swing arm out, and taking a look at the back. This is really two places that the oil could have been coming from. It wasn't coming from the drain plug. It wasn't coming from the oil pan gasket. You could see those easy enough without taking anything out. So that leaves the oil filter cover, or sorry, the oil pump cover, and the rear main seal. And turns out it was the oil pump cover that was where the leak was. Took it off, and turns out when I was installing the oil pump cover, the O-ring must have shifted just a little bit outside of its groove before I tightened it down, because you can see there's a nice little bite that got taken out of it. The piece is here too, so it didn't get circulated in the motor. It was just stuck, but that was enough to keep the cover from making a seal. So for a minute I thought, great, at least it wasn't something big. And so I cleaned it all up, and as I was cleaning it up, I noticed that the rear main seal did not appear to be flush and straight. There was a spot where it was dimpling out or bumped out a touch, and I couldn't see anything else wrong with it. It wasn't leaking, but that was not the kind of thing that I wanted to leave be. So I figured I could press that seal back in and see how that goes, but I'm pretty sure that I had it in further, and even when I installed it. So I'm not sure why it crept out, and decided to go ahead and pull the seal. And when I pulled the seal, I noticed that the thrust washer on the outside of the motor had become dislodged. And so I took it out and it looked like it was fine. I didn't see any major issues with it, and so I put it back on, and even put just a tiny bit of assembly lube on so it would stick in place on the 2 locating pins. Installed a new seal, and when I was done with all that, unblocked the crank so I could test for rotation, and it didn't want to move. It was a lot more resistance in the motor than there should have been. I got it to move, just a few degrees, 3, maybe 5 at the most, and enough that I could hear a little bit of grinding noise. So, what apparently happened is, between putting the thrust washer back on and installing the seal, it must have drifted off of one of the 2 pins again and fell down a little bit lower. And that meant that when I installed the seal, you might be able to see that. You can see a dimple where it pressed into the roll pin. And when I tightened the seal down, that pressed the roll pin further into the engine housing and the engine case, which meant that the roll pin was then in contact with the rear of the crank. So that was the end of going to Vermont. Took a few days away from the project at that point, and then proceeded to dismantle the engine. So yeah, now what I have is waiting for the new thrust washers. Bought a few of them because the one is damaged. It's no longer flat. Even if the dimple was something that I could be okay with, the thrust washer itself is ever so slightly out of true. It's got a little bit of a dimple, and its thickness is varying a bit too much there. So no point in putting that one back in, and inspecting. Now that I got everything taken apart, I'd give a really good inspection to the inside thrust washer, which is probably fine, but I'm going to go ahead and replace it anyway, just because I'm there. I've got it open, may as well do it. So so Project Blue is now set back a bit while I deal with all of this. But in the meantime, it gives me an opportunity to correct a few things, or redo some things that, because I was trying to rush, I had made peace with, and now I don't have to. Now I'm going to go back through and I'm going to redo some of the electrical stuff, and not really to change the components, but more, I think there's going to be a better way for me to handle the wire routing and harness management and things. It's all custom on this. So anyway, I wasn't happy, wasn't as happy as I wanted to be with how the electrical had shaped up by the time everything was put together. It was fine, it was working, but it could have been better. So now I get to make it better. Anyway, what's interesting on reflection is, everybody on every forum, just about every video that talks about doing anything with the flywheel and the rear main seal, and any time you get to the back of this engine, everybody is really good about telling you about blocking off the crank so it can't move. Get it completely immobilized, and that's something I do just because it makes sense to follow the wisdom of others. But I don't remember anybody actually saying anything about the external thrust washer. Maybe because it's obvious. The my last project, I didn't have this issue with the external thrust washer wanting to drift around a bit. It was pretty happy to just sit in the pins. And I'm not really sure I understand why this one wanted to jump off, but you know, it did. And you know, so real lesson is triple and quadruple check that thing before you install your seal, because once you get to the installing the seal, you can't really see the thrust washer anymore. So if it moves after you no longer can see it, there's nothing you can do. You just hope for the best. Pay attention to, I guess, how much resistance it's putting up, and if that's something that you begin to notice, then you know, you can always back it out, I guess, and try to peek in the little groove between the seal and the rear of the crankshaft. I think I'd have to look at it when I get it back together. Maybe that's doable, just to make sure it's still in there. But you know, for the most part, I think you're still just kind of hoping that it hasn't moved. So yeah, make sure the inner and outer thrust washers are on those stupid pins. Luckily, the pin appears to be undamaged, and I was able to tap it back into place, so it's about even with the other one. When I put the good thrust washer on the inside and the outside, it does not protrude past the surface of the thrust washer, so it just has enough to hold it in place and let it do its job without colliding with anything adjacent to it in the motor. And more importantly, I can't even see where it made contact on the crankshaft. So the crankshaft held up just great. So yeah. So once I get some parts, we'll begin putting everything back together. And maybe I'll record bits of it, and you know, because now it's essentially a completely naked block. Well, almost. I left the oil pan on, and you know, a few bits, but for the most part, it's a completely naked block. We'll get everything put back in. That'll probably be once I get the parts, my 2 new thrust washers. I could probably do that in a weekend, so I might break it up into multiple videos, or maybe I'll do one big video. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, so stay tuned. More on the way.